Hi, everybody. This is Rashmi here, one of the co-writers of the Usher Foundation, as well as the voice of Amita. Just wanted to hop in at the top of the episode here and remind you all that episode 9 will be coming out on the third Friday of the month, as per usual, and it looks like that will be June 20th for episode 9. I'm so excited. We're almost reaching the 10 episode kind of milestone. Very exciting. I hope you guys continue to enjoy. I hope you guys stick with us to see where this season goes and where future seasons will be going. Thank you so much. Appreciate you all. And I will talk to you later. Enjoy. Content warnings. Scopophobia, mentions of stalking, social phobia, anxiety. Please listen at your own discretion. The Usher Foundation. Episode 8. The Watcher. Statement of Christopher Meyer, age 38 at time of statement. Statement number 04133872. Summary of statement. A persistent feeling of being watched. Original statement taken April 13th, 1972. Recorded by Amita Dasgupta, archival assistant at the Usher Foundation of Paranormal Research, Washington, D.C. Statement as follows. You know, there's a place like this back home. Only a couple of hours from where I live, actually, in Norwich. The Magnus Institute. It's based in London. I actually visited several times. Not to make statements, mind you. I'm an academic myself, you see. An author. I tried getting into their library to pull some documents for research, but I was turned away. They told me I didn't have the proper credentials. Which is bullshit, by the way. I've got a doctorate and published research. But that's beside the point. All that to say, I never thought I'd visit one of the Magnus Institute's branches as a statement giver. But, well, I don't know where else to go. At this point, I'm thinking maybe I should just give up on the research. It's what led to this, to me being here. I mean, not directly, I suppose, but in a roundabout way, the only reason I'm sitting here adding to your archive is because of my curiosity. I'm in America studying Inuit carvings, but originally I was pursuing artifacts belonging to fringe religious groups. I changed my course of study after the mirror. It's fine, but what I'm really interested in is the religious stuff. The study of it, I mean. I grew up pretty religious, actually. A very Christian household, but I haven't practiced for a long time now. The way religion can captivate a group of people, though, that always fascinated me. It can be used as a moral compass or a tool for control or the face of an organization. The thing about most religions is that they have certain similarities, shared beliefs that can be traced back like roots to the dawn of time. The Romans worshipped gods based on the Greek pantheon, which are remarkably similar to Egyptian gods, which seem to have relations to Sumerian gods. What I'm getting at is, it's all connected, right? Sorry. I'm rambling, but it's what I love about anthropology and history. Even more interesting than religion are the spiritual people throughout the centuries who had practices that were entirely detached from any other of the major religions. People who worshipped beings alien to the ones we've traditionally studied. How did these practices come to be? How are they separate from popular religions around the world? I did my first book on Christian artifacts, and after that, I wanted to dig deep and discover answers to the real questions I had. My plan was to spend several years researching these different groups and eventually write another book on them. There were plenty of sources in the London area, and if there's one thing I'm good at, it's hunting down information. I spent a while collecting little totems, statues, some woven tapestries, pretty standard stuff. But those items, they weren't really what I was looking for. They weren't what I wanted. I knew there was something more to all of this, something I wasn't finding. It felt like there was this curtain over history that I could see but not tear through. I wanted to grab that curtain and rip it away. I wanted to reveal the parts of human history that are so often overlooked and forgotten. So I started looking into cults. I know what you're thinking, but I guess I reasoned that if there were surviving traditions of these lesser-known worshippers, they would probably be on the outskirts of religious society, like some cults are, right? Cult leaders, widely speaking, can convince their followers to believe all sorts of things we would consider crazy. Divine prophecies, aliens in the sky, Jesus returned. If people can create worship revolved around these sorts of ideas, it follows there must be at least a couple of cults with references to the types of artifacts and totems I was looking for. And you know what? I think before everything happened, before that damn mirror, I think I got close. I discovered an underground cult called the Lightless Flame, where I met a man who claimed to burn on the inside, who looked completely normal, but he said he couldn't touch anyone because of the fire inside of him. I discovered a woman who once had a patient whose mouth opened up into a twisting, yawning nothingness of static and laughter. There were artifacts, too. I was never able to get my hands on any of them, but I heard rumors of a shawl with strange embroidery that moved your body against your will, a rusted knife that caused you to kill, a pair of cleaning gloves that grew mold on your body. I think all of this should probably have scared me. That's the logical response, right? Most people I met who had encountered these things were terrified, haunted, traumatized. But I never really thought that anything bad would happen to me. That somehow I was special, immune in some way to all the horrors of the world. I thought that because I was an academic, because I was well educated, because I did my research, that I could avoid any consequences of my own curiosity. I mean, of course I was wrong. I'm sitting here writing this, aren't I? It wasn't until half a year into my research that I was able to get in contact with a man named Michele Salesa. I never actually met him in person, now that I think about it, so I can't tell you any other details besides that he deals in artifacts like the ones I mentioned above. I brokered a deal with him through an American contact of his, Lihala Groff. The deal was I'd get first pick of any of his discarded items. Basically, items he didn't think he could sell to some poor, unsuspecting victim. I'd still have to pay, of course, but I could do it in installments and at a fraction of the price of his normal stock. There was a busy crew of people unloading carts and crates inside the warehouse when I finally arrived, but Lihala led me right past them and took me to the back, where there was a small box waiting, full of items. I parsed through the box, with gloves on, obviously. I mean, I'm not a complete moron, I think I may have mentioned. But nothing was really speaking to me until I caught sight of it. The mirror. It wasn't anything special. Maybe that's why I was drawn to it. In a box full of intricate designs and ancient materials, it was just a plain mirror. The kind a woman might have to check her makeup on. The only outwardly interesting thing about it was it seemed to be gold-plated. Lihala noticed I was staring, I guess, and asked me if that was the one I wanted. I was nodding before I even knew what I was doing. And after some signing of paperwork and handing over my card information for the installment payments, I was driving home with the little mirror wrapped in paper and thrown in my passenger seat. I suppose I don't need to tell you what I did when I finally got home. Honestly, for all of my research and claims of academia, I don't think I even took many precautions besides my usual ones. I just sat down right on my couch and tore off the wrapping on the mirror. I remember thinking briefly, before opening it, that I ought to do something. Close my curtains, maybe. Double bolt my door. But I think somewhere deep down, I still didn't believe anything bad could really happen to me. It's like the same logic that some people have when they watch a horror film. They laugh and joke about the stupid guy who goes down into the obviously ominous basement, the girl who goes to hide in the clearly haunted shed. They elbow their friends and say, "I'd never do that. How stupid. I could survive this easily. Bad things only happen to other people." There was a moment of stillness. I remember that. Like my house was holding its breath. Or maybe I was. And then I opened the mirror. A note fluttered out. It only occurred to me later how odd this was. There hadn't been any sign of paper inside the mirror when I'd seen it back in the warehouse. At first I ignored it and focused on the glass, but I saw nothing. Just my own eyes reflected back at me in the grimy glass. I should have been relieved, but mostly I was actually disappointed. Perhaps Celesa had scammed me after all, and I just spent a stupid amount of money on a plain trinket. I sighed and picked up the note, an aged, cracked thing which had fallen into my lap, and when I examined it, I read 2 words, inked in a shaky hand in all capitals. Behind you. When I read that, I felt a chill run down my spine, and I inhaled sharply through my nose in shock. I felt a prickle on the skin of my neck. Before I could turn around, my hand twitched and the mirror's focus jumped behind me to the space next to my head. And I saw it. It wasn't a person. Not exactly. I mean, it looked person-shaped, with a head and arms and legs. But no face. Or that's not quite right. It has a face. But there wasn't a nose or a mouth. Just eyes. Huge, bloodshot eyes. Like they'd never blinked before, and maybe they hadn't. The pupils were so wide I felt like I was going to fall into them, and it was standing right behind me, right behind my couch, hunched over my shoulder, drinking me in. I screamed and dropped the mirror and looked around frantically, but, as you've probably guessed, there was no one there. I sat there frozen on my couch in terror for a couple of minutes, letting my body come down from the sudden rush of fear and adrenaline. I was embarrassed. All this time studying the supernatural, all the stories I'd heard, all the testimonies given, and some part of me still hadn't really believed. Even then, I was trying to write off my reaction, a result of so much buildup, years of anticipation. Once I managed to calm down, I went about my evening as usual. I ordered takeout since I wasn't up to cooking that night, and I wrote for a bit, then went over my notes, and actually ended up going to sleep much earlier than I was accustomed to. When I woke up the next morning, I'd almost convinced myself it was all a bad dream, or just a hallucination, caused by the stress of my research. But when I went out to get coffee, I felt the hair on the back of my neck stand up, while I was in the queue. That feeling you get, when you realize someone is looking at you. So, of course, I looked around to see if someone had accidentally started staring at me. You know, the way you do when you people watch, right? I thought maybe someone is just people watching at this cafe and accidentally let their eyes linger on me a little too long. I scanned the shop and I caught the gaze of a young woman. She smiled at me politely, and I was relieved. Just my imagination, I thought. Of course, I thought. I was too smart to let anything bad happen. And then behind her, I saw the creature. I saw its lack of face. I saw its enormous eyes staring right into mine. I screamed and fell backwards, toppling into the man standing behind me. The guy shoved me away and swore at me. I don't even remember what he said. I just remember I couldn't stop screaming and looking at that thing. It bore right into my soul, and I was terrified. Not because I was being followed by it. I was terrified because I was realizing I wasn't special. All my research, all my care, all my academic intelligence, it meant nothing. I was just as susceptible as anyone else to the horrors of the world. I pushed away the people asking if I was okay. I scrambled to my feet. I turned on my heel, and I fled the coffee shop. It's been months now. 5 or 6, I think. I can't be sure. I don't really sleep much anymore, and that makes it hard to keep track of time. I can feel its eyes on me all the time. Those terrible, bloodshot eyes. Even when I can't catch that awful figure in the corners of my vision, I know it's there. It doesn't even do anything. It just watches, stares, observes, scrutinizes me, judges me. Every stumble in conversation, every god-awful social interaction, every private moment I think I might have, it's always there. And it always knows. I feel that prickle on my neck, like someone is staring at me behind my back, and there it is. It never comes too close, not like that first time on my couch, but I could still see it. Those huge, red-rimmed eyes. It's always just out of my clear sight line, just far enough that I could doubt its existence, save for those goddamn eyes. And every time I realize it's watching me, I suddenly feel very aware of myself. I know that doesn't make much sense. What I mean is, I can feel how awkwardly I'm sitting or standing. I can feel the sweat pooling under my arms and behind my knees. I was always absolutely certain that everyone else around me thought I was pretentious or annoying or stupid. I could feel their judgment as surely as I felt those eyes boring into me. When it first started watching me, following me, I figured I could live with it. It's hell. Of course it is, but I reasoned that if I could live with it, then I could stop it from watching anyone else. At the very least, I'd have a first-hand account for my book, if I ever finished it. I know now that I never will, but that was my thought at the time. It was a week ago that I made the decision to come here. I can't go back home to the Magnus Institute, and here is better than nothing because I need to talk to someone before it's all over. It happened last Thursday, exactly a week ago today. I actually had started to believe that this stalking, or haunting, for lack of a better term, was getting better. I hadn't felt the thing's eyes on me all day. Couldn't feel it watching me at all. I thought maybe I could wait it out. It would get bored of me and leave, and I could shatter that damn mirror, and I could save another person from this horror. Anyways, it was 10 o'clock at night. I was brushing my teeth. I was feeling a little better for the first time in months, and I was fantasizing about smashing the mirror against a wall, and I made the mistake of glancing at myself in my bathroom mirror. Of course it was standing behind me. Of course it was. Giant, bloodshot eyes, huge pupils staring right into my face like it wanted to consume me with its stare. I screamed and stumbled back. My first instinct was to try and run, but I don't know. I was seized with something. Rage, maybe, or stress from 6 months of hiding and fear and terror and the awful knowledge that this thing was making me suffer for its own enjoyment, and I snapped, sort of. I let out a yell and drew back my fist, intending to smash it. I didn't care if I got cut. I didn't care if I hurt and bled. What could be worse than what I was already going through? Only my fist didn't shatter the mirror. It sank into it. Right into one of those horrible eyes. I felt a shock of cold and a feeling like trying to swim through something thick and viscous. It was awful. And I tried to wrench my arm back out, but the iris, it constricted like a muscle, and it started to pull me in. I screamed again. I remember that. I don't remember much, really. I was panicking, shrieking, trying to pull my arm out, and those damned eyes. The whole time they tried to swallow me, they never stopped staring, never stopped watching me. I could see myself reflected in the pupil that was trying to eat me. Every premature gray hair, the receding hairline, the crow's feet, the sunken hollows underneath my own eyes, the hunched-over spine of a man terrified and defeated. I don't know what happened. I guess I managed to wrench myself free and run to my room, where I locked the door and barred it with my desk chair. It was pointless, of course. I could still feel it watching me. I didn't sleep that night. I made the choice to find you lot the next morning. I just wanted someone to know my story. And if it's not too much trouble, maybe you can contact my sister in Norwich. Please, if you can, just tell her that her brother loves her, and tell her don't go through my things. I think that thing and its all-seeing eyes will be done with me soon, but not in the way I was hoping. I think coming here was a mistake. I can feel it watching me like usual, but it's stronger here for some reason. Hungrier. No, I don't think it's going to forget about me. I don't think it's going to stop until it finishes the job and takes everything from me. Not just my life, you understand. No. I think it's going to take much more than that before it finally kills me. statement ends. I don't normally record statements that are so old, but this one was misfiled. I found it among the statements taken in the early 2000s, which is where I usually focus. Considering its placement in the archives, it's possible I'm the first person to actually read this statement. Richard. So, for what it's worth, belated apologies to Mr. Meyer. As for the information in the statement, the name Michele Salesa is intriguing. Of course, we have items in artifact storage sold by him, and he's certainly on our list of dangerous people. I've never met him directly, nor have I met his alleged American contact, Lihala Groff, nor can I, Mari, or Kaylee find any information on anyone by that name. But unfortunately, Salesa's reputation alone adds enormous credibility to Mr. Meyer's statement. Not that I didn't believe him, of course. And on the matter of Lihala Groff, I'm going to have Kaylee and Mari continue digging, trying to find any kind of information we can. Mr. Meyer's parents would, of course, be long dead by now, but we tried to get information on the only other contact mentioned in this statement. Christopher Meyer's sister, Rosa Meyer, is unfortunately dead. She died of illness in prison for murder. I suppose he never had to worry about her going through his things after all. Interestingly, she did make a statement at the Magnus Institute in London the same year Mr. Meyer gave his statement to us. I've contacted the head archivist there with a request for her statement. Maybe it will give some more insight into the sibling situation. Speaking of the situation in question, I've noted that we don't seem to have any kind of mirror in artifact storage, and I haven't yet come across any other statements pointing to a quote-unquote watching figure. Nevertheless, I'll add it to my notes on the entities, spirits I've been calling them for lack of a better term, that I've been tracking in the statements. If I find anything else in the archive on a feeling of being watched, I'll be sure to write it down immediately. I looked into Mr. Meyer with the hopes that if he had not passed due to old age yet, he might be contacted for follow-up. This was a pointless endeavor. Mr. Meyer died a few weeks after giving this statement. Officially, he died of a stroke. But considering his mental state and the events described in the statement, I wonder if there's something more. I wonder if it's more accurate to say he was consumed. No, that's not quite right. I wonder if it's more accurate to say he was unmade. End tape.
The Magnus Archives is a podcast written by Jonathan Sims and produced by Alexander J. Newall and distributed by Rusty Quill. Story, characters, and ideas written about in this fan-made project belong to Rusty Quill. The Usher Foundation is a fan-made project co-written by Rashmi Phillips and Mari and edited by Mari, Kaylee F, Amber, and Emma. All audio used in this project was Creative Commons Use Audio. Thank you for listening.